A 25-year-old man named Mato has not seen his family for 4 months. He sleeps on top of borders every single night. He keeps his weapon in his hand whilst he sleeps. He does not have a base. He does not have a camp with proper beds or hot food. He has a cliff face, a rifle, and 30 jihadist units sitting 1 kilometer below him right now, ladies and gentlemen.
We're headed to Kassa. You'll see where we were attacked. There are many jihadists there.
This is not actually a movie. This is not a training was not exercise. This is actually Eastern Mali, and Mato is the only thing standing between a jihadist army and the heart of West Africa. And here is what makes this particular story different from every other war story you have actually heard. Mato has no government behind him. No military was no supply chain. No foreign was no soldiers backing him up. The rifles his men are actually carrying right now, ladies and gentlemen, they actually did not come from any army depot or weapons was on deal. Okay, they actually came from the bodies of enemies his men actually defeated themselves.
The jihadists burned down the villages. More than 12 were destroyed. They stole money and killed many people. Then they burned down all the houses, the storage facilities. They took all the animals.
They attacked the jihadists and the jihadists fell, and they actually pick up the guns. That is how this militia is actually simply formed or armed. That is the reality on the ground in Dogon country today. Before I actually take you further, please make sure that you get to like this particular video. Okay, if you're actually still standing for the Sahel, subscribe to this political community and turn on notification.
I was a student in Quran school. They drove us out and burned all the Qurans.
There's no mosque anymore. They took all the prayer rugs. They even took our burial mats. But we're still here, so they haven't destroyed everything. The state doesn't understand what's going on here. Is that normal? Are we not part of this nation? We, the land of the Dogon? Of course we are.
We're at war.
Now, 30 jihadist units are actually operating on the plains below those cliffs as you actually watch this record video. The closest one is exactly 1 kilometer away from where Mato and his men are actually was not standing. And no army is actually was not coming, no government vehicle is on the way. No French military helicopter is being dispatched. The men on those cliffs are on their own, and they have actually been on their own since 2016.
Everything you do requires their approval.
But before we actually go deeper into what is actually happening right now, you need to first of all understand what this land actually is, because the Dogon country was not always a war was not zoned, not even close. The Dogon people carved their village, okay, their villages into 500-meter sandstone cliffs in the 15th century. Think about that for just a moment, ladies and gentlemen. These were not weak people at all, looking for a hide or a safe was no place or corner to make sure that they hide in. Those were actually builders. These were people who looked at one of the hardest and most hostile landscapes or environments in all of West Africa and said, we will make this our home. And they did.
A sign of utmost respect. Bashir brings the hunters food. He returned to his home region a year ago to support the fighters.
We need water.
Give them water. Here's the water, Chief.
We haven't eaten anything since yesterday. We haven't found anything since dinner yesterday. We're hungry.
We're gonna change that.
Yes.
We'll feed you.
I'm counting on you.
But before they sit down to eat, Commander Mato stations guards around the camp.
For 600 years, ladies and gentlemen, they held that particular was not land. By the time the 2000s arrived, Dogon country was the single most visited tourist destination in all of Mali. People flew in from Europe, from America, from Asia, just to walk those cliff trails and see what had been built there. The ancient granaries, the carved wooden doors, the iron statues and ritual marks that told stories going back centuries.
La fofote.
Here, mealtime is holy. The men eat their food in silence, without putting down their weapons.
When you're done eating, you wipe your hands on your shirt, either on tree leaves or your clothes. Afterwards, we go drink some water. Otherwise, there isn't enough water.
UNESCO put the Bandiagara escarpment on the World Heritage List in 1989. The whole world came here to actually land. Then 2016 actually arrived and everything changed finally. Jihadists, the stubborn guys, they actually moved into this particular region, a coalition of armed groups operating under the banner of Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb pushed into the heart of Mali. They came into that gaunt country with weapons, with threats, and with one simple message: obey us, pay our tax, or watch everything you built get burned. And the Malian army did not actually come. France, which had thousands of soldiers spread across the Sahel for over a decade, did not actually come. Nobody came.
All the hunters you see here are Malians. There aren't any foreigners. The government doesn't give us weapons. We're in our caves, and when jihadists come by, we kill them and take their weapons. The army doesn't help us, France doesn't help us, no one helps us. But the locals are on our side.
12 villages in the commune of Kassa were burned into the ground, houses destroyed, food storage facilities set on fire, livestock stolen, every goat, every ox, every animal that farming families had built their entire lives around, gone, ladies and gentlemen. And here is the part that stays with you. The jihadists burned the Qurans.
The moment they got here, they gathered all they could and burned it. See?
What did they burn?
Kitchen utensils and motorcycles over there. They took the animals.
They drove Quran school students out of their classrooms, burnt every copy of the Holy book, took the prayer racks, took the burial mat. These people claimed to be defending Islamic whilst destroying everything Islam had actually built in this particular community, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the men who lived through it have not forgotten that detail, or that was an information or update. Yes. Now, ask yourself one particular question and leave your honest questions or answer, okay, in the comment section right now. If a foreign military force spent 10 years or a decade and millions of dollars in your region and still did not actually show up when your villages were actually being burned, what would you actually call that, ladies and gentlemen? Because the people of Dogon country did not actually wait for an answer. They built one.
They ate here and they attacked us.
You were up there?
Yes, we were up there and they were below.
How many?
About 100. We had about 24 men. They ran and came with a rocket launcher and many other weapons and ammunition. They have more resources than we do.
Anyone from your side injured?
There were casualties.
There were?
Yes, injuries and deaths.
Really?
Yes.
Mator lost 7 men during the attack.
But we would never surrender. Even if we have to sacrifice our lives, we'll do it together because this is our home, our territory, the land of the Dogon. If we had to leave our land, where would we go? The military isn't coming. What else can we do?
The Dozo Brotherhood, a centuries-old group of initiated hunters and warriors, that had existed in this part of West Africa long before any modern army activated. Former farmers picked up old hunting rifles. Former hunters left their animals behind. Ladies and gentlemen, former students who had been sitting in Quran schools walked into the bush and started training, and together they formed the Nambasago, a militia of around 1,000 fighters spread across 50 patrol units working the cliff face around the clock.
Because for us, clothes are forbidden in the village. The women and children are afraid of our clothes.
Ils ont peur? Ils ont peur, oui.
How are you?
How's everyone? All good? No issues?
Everyone's fine.
God bless you.
These men are between 25 and 60 years old, ladies and gentlemen. They sleep on borders. They eat unripe fruit off the cliff face when the supply round from the village does not actually arrive. The heat on those rocks reaches 45 degrees Celsius in the shade. They see their families 3 times a year. Their homes are actually 20 kilometers away, and they do not actually go back, not even for a single day, because the position cannot be left empty.
Mon petit frère est venu à 6 heures pour me dire que le boucher n'avait plus de viande. Jusqu'à maintenant, je n'ai pas eu de viande. Il est parti en chercher ailleurs, alors je l'attends ici. Nous souffrons, vous savez.
The meat shortage has driven up prices 25% in 3 years.
That's 3,000 CFA francs.
3,000 francs.
A kilo of red meat costs 3,000 CFA now.
That's the equivalent of €4.60 per kilogram.
A man named Bashir climbs the cliff on foot to bring them food, When he arrives, the fighters touch their hands to the ground in greetings. That is actually the highest sign of, respect the Dozo give to anyone. The man carrying food up a mountain on this one back ends the same respect as a commander. That tells you everything about what kind of community this is. This is what African self-determination actually looks like. Not a speech, not a summit, men on rocks with old guns, feeding each other, holding the line. If this story is the kind of story you believe deserve to be actually told, subscribe to this particular community right now. Hit that button, because this particular community exists to tell the stories that the big network walk past. The people who actually stayed when everyone else left. The communities that built what government refused, to build. This is that channel. Subscribe and stay with us, The West is actually still coming in this particular story, and you need to make sure that you hear that part.